I want to talk about a topic that has been causing a lot of controversy recently, and that is the name of the Slave One being called Boba Fett Starship in a Lego set box. Now, when that first came out, a lot of people were on Lego about like, oh, Lego's gone too soft. Like, at first it was fine because they didn't have guns, but then it was taking it too far when they canceled a set with TNT, or the Technic Osprey, because it has the model of the plane was used for like military use, even though the one that Lego was releasing was a medical helicopter. All this stuff that Lego's been mandating and trying to like keep to PG. People are starting to get on Lego because like you changed the name Slave One, which has been the name for 20 years, into Boba Fett Starship because people thought they were trying to avoid the name Slave. And the perception of it kind of changed once it was like said that this was Disney's doing. A lot of people were like, oh, okay, that's really it. And a few people dropped it, but more, I would say the hardcore fans are extremely upset that the Slave One, which has been called the Slave One since 1980, has been changed by Disney. And there's another reason that Disney's trying to make Star Wars soft again. And obviously, this is not true. And the main reason why they're just changing the Slave One isn't really the fact that they're changing the name from Slave One. It's literally just marketing on a box, on a few toys. If you go on Star Wars Databank, it is so called the Slave One. That is not changing whatsoever. It's literally marketing on a box. Most of us know it's just going to be named the Slave One. And obviously, Disney isn't being soft. Disney's not afraid to tackle the topic of slavery. They have done it literally in The Last Jedi. A topic of slavery is not something they shy away from, even though that Disney has a history of being racist in the past. They are not shying away from the slavery. But also, how many of us have like associated the Slave One with slavery? I know there's that one Robot Chicken thing with Lando and Boba Fett.
I gotta say, Boba, this is one beauty of a ship. Not crazy about the name, though.
But I don't think in like 99% of the people's heads they have ever associated Slave One, the name of the ship, with slavery, and not only history in America, but also history around the world with slavery. I mean, slavery has always been a thing in Star Wars ever since, like, the Wookiees have been a thing. And, like, even before that, Anakin Skywalker was a kid in slavery. Like, this isn't something they're trying to shy away from. Even in Return of the Jedi, Leia was a slave to Jabba the Hutt, so obviously this has nothing to do with the ideology of slavery. It has everything to do with marketing, in my opinion. Like, if a kid was like, Mom, I want Boba Fett's Starship, they're going to go to the thing that says Boba Fett Starship on. They're not going to go to the Slave One unless you read, like, the fine print that says, like, the name Boba Fett. Because, like, I don't know, very few Star Wars materials actually named the ship Slave One. I feel like a lot of people know the name Slave One, but they're never going to really associate it, especially if you're a casual fan. M&R in his video was like, oh, I've been a fan for Star Wars for years, and when I was little, I figured it out. And that's great for you, but like, you are in the know. You were in the know when you're 8 years old. And probably your parents were also in the know buying these sets for you because they probably introduced you to Star Wars. But reality is that isn't true for most fans. And just because it says Boba Fett's Starship, it doesn't mean that we don't know what this is. We all know that this is the Slave One. It literally means nothing. And it seems to be like a consistent trend with these like smaller scale stuff that Lego's starting to release for these cheaper prices. Like, the shuttle Tidarium isn't named the shuttle Tidarium or Lambda class shuttle. It's literally named Imperial Shuttle. The Sentinel class shuttle isn't named the Sentinel. It's called Imperial Landing Craft. It doesn't have their technical or even non-technical names. It just has a description really of the set. The same is true with the other cheaper scaled Lego sets. Like the X-Wing that was released is named Luke's X-Wing. It isn't named X-Wing. Like, we all know what this is. It isn't that big of a deal. Star Wars isn't afraid of tackling slavery. And this isn't Disney trying to go woke. But unfortunately, it is true that probably in a few years, Disney was probably going to get canceled for this. But, like, who cares? Disney gets canceled every other weekend. It's not that big of a deal. But I guess they're trying to just avoid this and take the brunt of all the force from all the nerds right now. And not really. People on Twitter starting to cause a wildfire. It's not that big of a deal just to be called Slave One, especially since Boba Fett's TV show's coming out soon. They named the Bad Batch Havoc Marauder just the Bad Batch Starship, or the Bad Batch attack shuttle. It's just a description of what it is. So like when a kid's like, Mom, I want the Bad Batch ship, they're not going to say, Mom, I want the Havoc Marauder, because they're going to have no idea what that is. They're going to know Bad Batch attack shuttle or Bad Batch ship. It's just easier for marketing for like the casual fan getting these sets. I feel like this is just common knowledge. It's just sad how something as simple as this can be turned into a misnomer and spread like wildfire across the internet, even though it's not that big of a deal. The same thing happened with Galaxy's Edge when that first came out. People took the ideology that Galaxy's Edge was a failure or no one wants to go there, even though that was 100% not true. Like, even at the time where people were saying this, you could go to downtown Disney and people had their Salvi's Workshop lightsaber or their Legacy lightsaber or their droid, and they were just walking around with it like it was never a failure to begin with. And people were like, the main reason to go to Disney is to visit Star Wars Land / Galaxy's Edge. So that was all a misnomer. And it's sad that reality of today is you can just turn on your microphone and just spread lies, and that can go into mainstream media without even fact checking the source that it comes from. This is also true with the Boba Fett Starship. If you know Lego, if you've been with Lego for a while now, you would know that they have a history of like just using non-descriptive things to describe a ship. It's just always been the fact. They're not going to call it the R-71 A-Wing. They're going to say Resistance A-Wing. That has always been true. It will forever be true. And it's going to always be like that from the rest of the time, despite the fact if you think it's a kid's toy, if you don't think it's a kid's toy, it's just always going to be a description of it. They're not going to say, this is Anakin's Delta 7 Jedi Starship. They're just going to say Anakin's Jedi Starship. And that's how it's going to forever be. It's just going to be how it is. If you're one of those people who just blow it out of proportion, I'm telling you, it's not that big of a deal. It's just the name of a toy that we all know. His name is Slave One. That's simply it. And all this just comes down to resentful Star Wars fans being even more resentful. That's really it.